Hi everyone, I'm just sharing this. I've got a couple of things to share, just this and a petition. But this is from the Byline Times and it's written by Shahmir Sanni. It's no longer about conservatism, it's about lawlessness and power. Be Leave whistleblower Shahmir Sanni explains how the Vote Leave government is now wedded to breaking the law in order to achieve its political goals. It is in the middle of a global healthcare, economic and social crisis that we find the most catastrophic elements of mankind, but also their most beautiful. It is in times like these that great change happens. Sometimes it is good and sometimes it is bad. We are all too familiar with how Conservative governments work, from the miners' strike in the 1980s to austerity and now Brexit. We have seen who they are and where their values lie. They have for much of the time justified their moral ineptitude under the guise of economic sensibility, and quite successfully so, but this is no longer the case. The Conservatives are not thinking in terms of economic sustainability, for which they are so famously supported by the moderate right and small c Conservatives, but entirely in terms of maintaining political power, and that is where the political and cultural crisis in Britain is at its precipice. One parliamentarian declaring in the House of Commons that the government breaking into national law over its U-turn on the Brexit withdrawal agreement is a possibility isn't just one parliamentarian's silly mistake. It isn't just his word. It's an echoing of the collective sentiment of this Vote Leave government and Boris Johnson's Conservative Party. No time to turn a blind eye. I risk my life, livelihood and everything in between to expose the deep-rooted corruption of Brexit, as well as the entire Conservative establishment. When I went public with how the Vote Leave campaign broke electoral law during the 2016 EU referendum by donating funds to youth groups, Be Leave, which were actually funneled to its data and ad targeting from aggregate IQ, they outed me, and together with the BBC, the entire establishment worked to silence me. I had moments in which I had to remind myself that I wasn't crazy because of how vicious it all became. I saw Dominic Cummings and his executive team being removed from data drives. I had participants in these acts cry in front of me about how the unlawful activities were breaking them. I personally heard them talk about it over and over again, only to then be met by racism, homophobia and the incredible power of white supremacy and political violence when I spoke out, to simply bring lights to acts of lawfulness. They broke the law. Even progressives stayed away from the evidence because they knew the scale of corruption would render them hopeless. It was scary, not just for me but for all those who supported and didn't support me, because if we cannot trust our own government, how are we to trust our own livelihoods and safety? It is time we choose bravery and unapologetic opposition to anyone that supports this Conservative Party and its government. Small c Conservatives and moderates have only two options: to side with people that value justice and the rule of law, or to side with those who do not. Because, just like the Brexit scandal, this is not about Remain or Leave or about Labour or Conservative. It is about the law and those who value it and those who do not. When those in power stop valuing the rule of law, it is the precipice of the change I spoke of. There are times in which others can be met halfway. There are times in which people can park their opinions and hear those of others. There are times in which one can say, I don't agree, but I see your point. But breaking the law by those in positions of power is not that time. It is an act of violence, an act of state violence that does not warrant analysis, but clear-cut action against those blinded by the acquisition of power. Now, hats off to Shahmir for this absolutely excellent excellent, well said. And as I've stated in many of my videos, and so many other people that are focusing and sharing facts and information about what's going on in our world, you know, we're all on the same line there. This isn't about, you know, Brexit or whether you want to remain. It isn't about Conservative or Labour. It is about, it's not about black or white. It's about the law. Who stands by the law and the rights that we have under the law, and who doesn't. It's as simple as that. You see, it is as simple as that. Now, this brings me to a petition that I've been forced to create. I need to refresh the page really, because it's a lot of more people have signed, but I only created it like the early hours of Saturday morning, and I only just started sharing it around today actually, because I've been so busy with other things. But basically this petition was initially posted to the government website, and they checked it and said yeah, it was good to go, and had to get 5 people to sign it. Actually 21 people signed it, and then they said it'd be a few weeks before it went live, and then now they've got back to me to say that they won't let it pass because it's it's accusing people of crimes, and therefore this cannot be a petition in Parliament. So I've now uploaded the petition onto change.org, and I'll leave a link to it. And this is a petition to examine and investigate lawful evidence supporting lawful suspicion that the postal vote of UK December 2019 general election was corrupted by unlawful actions of Tory party members, government, and also Tory biased media coverage. Did Labour really lose for this reason? And this is the link to the Ricky Coxon WordPress article, in which Ricky, who describes himself as a data nerd, breaks down in full all the evidence, basically. Lawful evidence supporting lawful suspicion of a rigged postal vote, and also the evidence to show how that rigged postal vote did give Boris Johnson and co a landslide alleged victory. Very serious evidence. It does need to be acted on. We do have laws in this country, and you know, why is nobody questioning it? Because we have a totally controlled media, and we have a confused and largely misinformed, disinformed public who are victims of ongoing psychological warfare and economic warfare, and soon it seems to be medical warfare. And when we look across the waters at Donald Trump, FBI investigations into a matter of 9 mail-in ballots found in a waste paper bin or in a ditch or somewhere, I think we're looking, you know, comparing that to the weight of evidence we have here. We have enough evidence to be asking questions. And the thing about lawful suspicion is that lawful suspicion is what warrants arrests and investigations. You know, if you have lawful evidence to support suspicion of a crime, then that suspicion is lawful suspicion. It isn't. It can't be judged as malice. You see, that, you know, well, I don't like that person, I suspect I'm going to report them to the police for something. You have to have some evidence to support your suspicion. So lawfully valid suspicion based on lawfully identified valid evidence is actually enough to warrant arrests and investigations. So that's the link. And as I've stated here, there were clear breaches of security around the postal vote. Private companies with direct Tory connections were contracted to manage the election and count postal votes in ignorance of regular procedure, i.e. IDOCS and Hallerose, which Hallerose is actually connected to IDOCS. It's one of their offshore companies. The public has a democratic duty to ensure that UK general elections are secure and they are not falling far below standards of, e.g. Venezuela, whose elections were described by Forbes as a model for the world. That was, I think, in 2013. In light of the new laws authorising secret crimes, including murder, to be committed with impunity against British citizens, coupled with the Tory government draconian coronavirus bill, the average UK citizen is left at risk of state-endorsed terrorism. What else could we expect from the beneficiaries of a lawfully suspected coup? And I've shared here a link to the new rules in which a variety of organisations now have the rights to commit crimes, which do include kidnapping, torture and murder. And these are all the agencies that can employ covert agents that they can employ from anywhere in the world. Don't forget, corporations can bring in anybody anywhere from in the world. So, you know, and these are all Food Standards Agency, Medicines and Healthcare Regulation Authority. It's particularly worrying when we're on the brink of this, what looks like it's going to be a mandatory vaccination, experimental gene editing vaccination about to be rolled out, and suddenly the Medicines and Healthcare Regulation Authority have rights to commit authorised secret crimes using covert agents to attack individuals. And like I say, those crimes do include murder and torture. Okay, because that's why, you know, as in my previous video I shared this explaining that this was decided last year. The court said they can do that, but it was still against the law. So if they actually got caught, they would be held on charges of murder or kidnapping or whatever. But they have since, very recently now, because of that, the government has changed it so that it is now legal, that they can't be held accountable under the law, you see, as it explains here. Because, however, a major court ruling last year found that while the MI5 had an implied power to authorise crimes, it did not mean anyone involved was immune from prosecution. So that was why they had to change the law in order to allow that to happen, you see. It's we are in very, very serious times, and that's why they've created this new law, in order to give themselves rights to be able to do, well, commit crimes against British citizens, you see. So I'm going to share this link, the petition link, and I ask you to sign it and share it, because we do need it to go viral. You know, this I've shared this image, which is from Ricky Coxon's WordPress article, showing that the postal vote inexplicably doubled in 2019. You know, you can go back over the years, see it's been steadily rising. From 2005, it's almost, you know, in a clear line, and then suddenly wham, up there. And this was, don't forget, this was before COVID-19. If this had happened during COVID-19, then it would have been understandable, because more people would have stayed at home, you know, in order to avoid crowds and what have you. But this was before, well before anything mention of COVID anywhere. So it is really disturbing, and all the other evidence surrounding that, you know, with direct Tory involvement in the management and counting of the postal votes in terms of these companies, IDOCs, which the government suddenly recruited without putting it out to public tender, as should have happened. You know, the law was broken there. There's lots and lots of laws being broken, and we're in a very dangerous situation when the government basically has a license to kidnap, torture and murder people. And, well, the government will say, well, it isn't us that are kidnapping, murdering, torturing people, but they've authorised bodies to be able to do that. You see, they have made it law. And so basically the death penalty has now been introduced into Britain, but without arrest, investigation and trial. So your rights of trial, our rights of trial have been taken from us to an impartial investigation. That's been taken away from us, and the death penalty has been issued in Britain. And you know, the media isn't telling us about it. The BBC, totally corrupt. Actually, they belong on charges themselves for crimes against humanity, actually, and for supporting fascism, because, you know, Nuremberg rules apply. So all you people working at the BBC, if you people yourselves aren't going to revolt and ask some serious questions now, then, you know, you have to accept your own complicity, you see. You have to accept your own complicity. And, you know, when it comes to the press, really, generally, you're all complicit who aren't standing with people like Shahmir, who aren't standing to honestly share the information. And as I say, forget all this stuff. Oh, you know, anybody asking questions, you know, the far right extremists or their far right left, whatever. I am not an extremist. I'm not anywhere near far right. I'm nowhere near, you know, far left in terms of Marxist communism and what have you. I'm more on a par with like Norway and Sweden and Iceland, perfectly reasonable, balanced places, you know. And I think that's what we need to move towards, balance. And yes, this isn't about Brexit or no Brexit or Conservatism or Labour. There is no Labour. This is a coup. Britain is in the grip of a coup. They've created what Dominic Cummings calls a beneficial crisis. And they're exploiting it like nobody's business. And I'm sorry, a new virus does not give them the right to take away our human rights, to issue the death sentence against people at the hands of covert agents working for a variety of authorities operating in Britain. This is absolutely abominable. It is an abomination. This government is an abomination before the law. And basically, you know, the law is founded on the concept of God. Okay, our Queen, she's head of the Church of England, Christian Church. So we're talking God and Jesus, which are the foundations of our law. And this that they've just issued, and the coronavirus bill, it are abominations of law. But this is an abomination against everything that we could consider respectful, decent, of a civilised society. Britain is no longer a civilised society. We, the people, are civilised. The society that's governing us, which is something alien and foreign to the rest of us, okay, they are collectively an abomination before God, before the law, before the life of our planet, and before humanity. This is an abomination, and it is the death sentence. Okay, so you know, please share the petition. Share Shahmir's article here. He was very brave, stepping forward and speaking out, and he did put himself at great risk through doing that. And, you know, like I say, this isn't about, you know, he was working for the Leave campaign. So, you know, because a lot of people did believe in that. And yes, there are a lot of things wrong with Europe, you know. People like myself never voted Leave only because I understood exactly what these Tories were going to do with Brexit. That it wasn't going to be a Brexit for we the people, and that it was going to be a Brexit that stripped us of our sovereignty rather than actually restored British people's sovereignty. And that was the only reason why I voted against it, because I knew that they were all about stripping us of our human rights and basically turning this country into a tax haven. And so, you know, there was no way that I was going to support that, because, you know, there's Brexit, there's many kinds of Brexit that we could have had. We didn't have to have this kind of Brexit that they're imposing on us. And we do need to fight back. We can't all go traipsing down to London, you know. We can all sign a petition. We can let this government know that we are aware and we are asking questions. And we want to know why this isn't being investigated. Because if this government is illegitimate, is in power through rigging the postal vote, then it's not a legitimate government. This law is not a legitimate law, and the coronavirus bill is not a legitimate act of Parliament. So, you know, it's very, very, very important that we do come together now to question this, and really it's the least that anybody can do. If you genuinely are concerned about what is going on now, then it's the least you can do is to sign this petition and share it with other people. Because, you know, the children of today and the children of tomorrow are depending on we the people, the adults of Britain today, okay? We are their last living line of defence. So it's up to us to step to it. And what can I say except, look, love and God bless to everybody. Stay strong. Don't give up hope. Don't give up the fight. Stand up for your human rights. And keep the faith. You know, keep the faith. We have to overcome a little trouble, but we shall overcome it. You know, support the people around you. Now is the time to be reaching out, strengthening bonds, you know, reaching out to the people in our communities and doing what we can to help each other out, because a lot of people are suffering alone. They're suffering in silence. The suicides have risen 100%, you know, and nobody's talking about that. And it is time that we started recognising one another and each other's needs, and most especially the children. So big love to everybody.